Footsteps, Chapter 33. One interesting phenomenon in connection with Mrs. Eddy's revelations of truth was that when she first expressed these spiritual thoughts, before she had taken time to adapt them to the understanding of Christian scientists, these thoughts might be in a cryptic form that would require demonstration on the part of the student to understand. This fact is illustrated by one statement which she gave when she spoke to the students from the balcony. Quote, "If you think you are not mortal, you are mistaken." Unquote. Strange as this statement may sound, what is it but a call to realize that one's thought generates no spiritual power through the human process called thinking? We must know that we are not mortal, not merely think it, in order to have it effectual. In the following chapters is included a series of such cryptic statements which our leader made at Pleasant View. I have endeavored to detect the hidden meaning she intended to convey by unfolding them spiritually from a Christian Science standpoint. What did our leader mean when she said, "I live with the Bible. I have not another thing on earth to be one with but the Bible and science and health. I, the Bible, and science and health. The Trinity, 3 in 1. The Trinity represents the three essential elements in creation. The Bible presents God in his highest interpretation. The Christ, as the second element of creation, was lost sight of soon after the Master's ascension. As reflected by Jesus, the Christ was relegated to a miraculous status, which made him of no active value in the problem of creation. In Science and Health, Mrs. Eddy brought back the Christ with its demonstration. How could she herself represent the third element? In order for the Trinity to be operative, a third member that transforms the divine power so that it becomes practical and applicable to humanity is necessary. Jesus represented this third element since, through him, truth found expression to bless mankind. In this age, however, it was through Mrs. Eddy's demonstration that the truth again found entrance into the world. If this third element of the Trinity is missing, and there is found no human who is spiritually endowed to be a transformer, then both God and his Christ are shut out from this human sense of things. Hence, the third element is similar to the aperture in an hourglass, which must be open in order that the sand may flow freely from one bulb to the other. His conception does not infer that Mrs. Eddy was this third element for any other reason than that, through Christian Science, she developed her spiritual oneness and openness. Thus, we are forced to the conclusion that in any age, anyone who is spiritually open to be this transforming element stands as the necessary doorway through which the things of God, operating through the Christ, reach mankind and do their resuscitating and regenerating work, freeing man from false bondage and restoring him to his rightful place as God's perfect reflection. As the Master said, "I am the door." Without the one who understands, interprets, and reflects God, both Father and Son are shut out from the human world where they are most needed. But when one establishes and recognizes that God is operating through him, and pouring into him health, harmony, and spiritual consciousness of all things, that thought extended brings God down to earth as the Christ. A humble illustration is meat, which is of value to man only when transformed by the heat of the oven into a form fit for his consumption. Then and only then can man take it in, digest and assimilate it. So Mrs. Eddy's mission might be called a chemical change that, taking place, enables man to reflect God. At this point, the light of truth floods into the darkness of mortal thought and becomes practical and applicable to man's needs. Therefore, Mrs. Eddy stood as the symbol to this age of the third element of the Trinity. Nevertheless, each individual student of Christian Science must take up the work and follow her. And each time he brings God out of heaven down to earth through reflection, he represents, as did our leader, the third part of the Trinity. Thus, God and man become united, or rather, the eternal unity of God and man is brought to light. Today, through Christian Science, it has been established so that all may understand that God's part is done, that he stands forever as the perfect creator of all things, and that the spiritual idea, which is the Christ, has been reduced to a form that may be embodied by man as the true idea of himself, and shown forth as his true and only identity. Therefore, if man will do his part as the transformer of spirit into its proper place in the government of the universe, including man, then the Trinity will become operative. Another illustration Mrs. Eddy frequently used in connection with herself was a window letting in the light. On February 19, 1903, she wrote in a private letter, "The sick are healed to all appearances, and the gospel is taught by mortal mind, but the fact remains that only the immortal mind can heal the sick or save the sinner. Divine love knows that love is light, even that light which is the life of man. Divine love knows his window and knows that it gives light, not darkness, and is the means of love's entrance into the hearts of men. The wonder is that aught can make God's window seem to be what it is not. It was the doubt and ignorance of what Jesus was and did for all mankind that shut out and still shuts out the light of love. What if the window does offend the senses with the objects it reveals and the path it points out? It is love's window and love's revelation to mankind. The good gaze at last with gratitude and joy on what they had not seen, but now see through the window that disturbed the senses, but pointed the way in science.